investisseur, aventurier et environnementaliste dévoué, Monsieur Luc Hardy est surtout un homme de passion qui sait transmettre aux jeunes et au grand public ses expériences fascinantes. Monsieur Hardy graduated with an engineering degree from the prestigious École Centrale in Paris. He is president of Sagax, a US-based investment and management advisory firm. But his greatest love is for the environment, for exploring nature, and for advocating on behalf of our planet's beauty and the absolute need to recognize and preserve it. He has pursued travel expeditions around the globe, notably in critically important climate regulating zones in polar and glacial regions, photographing and reporting from remote places in order to share and raise awareness. Père de Flamme et de Ainoa, ici parmi nous, toutes deux diplômées de notre lycée, Luc Hardy est aussi un grand ami de la FASNY. En effet, sa fille Flamme a été membre de la toute première promotion de la FASNY. Luc Hardy a toujours manifesté une grande confiance dans notre école, lui apportant beaucoup d'aide et d'implication. At this time, it is my pleasure to welcome Luc Hardy as our graduation speaker for FASNY's 7th commencement ceremony. I'm confident that he'll have some inspiring words to share with the class of 2015.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Joël, and thank you, Misha, by the way, for 12 great years at the helm of FASNY's board. I guess now you will have time to come with me on expeditions. It's a real honor and another great adventure for me to be here. FASNY for our family and our kids has been a great combination of American spirit and French esprit. As parents, we took a risk almost 20 years ago when our daughters, Flamme and Ainoa, started their school life at a much smaller FASNY. We, and most importantly, they are really happy they did. Most of you will retire around 2060. Quite a few of you will live until year 2100. So who I am really to even think of giving you some pieces of advice. But since I've been asked, I will do my best to help and make it less abstract by giving you a couple of examples based on my personal experience. When Joël asked me to give a talk today, my immediate reaction was, "Je n'ai jamais fait ça, donc oui." I never done it before, so yes. And I think that attitude of wanting to try new things all the time, curiosity, exploration, has really been a thread in my life, whether in France at a young age or in the US for the past 30 years. And as plain as it sounds, it's really a fundamental quality to be curious. For me, it has taken many forms, from collecting exotic stamps in early childhood to starting photography at age 12 and going to spend a month in England at age 14. And trust me, that was something back in 1970. When I became an engineer, I just followed the family tradition. Father, army engineer, elder brother, polytechnicien, so I became an engineer. My rebellion really started during École Centrale, my engineering school in France. For my first internship then, I looked at what were the most disjointed opportunities in the list posted on the school board and ended up working on an offshore oil platform in Nigeria. At the end of Central, I found a way to create an internship for myself in South Africa when most of the world was boycotting that country because of apartheid. And after school, although trained as an engineer with no marketing background, I went to work at Colgate in marketing. I very much remember the surprised interviewer asking me to pretend I was selling him my watch. I was terrified, but somehow it worked and I got the job. The same happened with management consulting. In that firm, they had never taken someone who had not been to business school. But yet my desire to work in consulting and showing curiosity must have worked because I did get the job as well. So why am I mentioning this? Because if you are curious, dare, and take risks, people will notice and appreciate, and they will take risks on you too. All this happened to me because of curiosity and being ready to take risks and possibly suffer rejection. You can tell yourselves what I often tell myself. Have no fear, the problem will come from elsewhere anyway. My right arm is almost a testament to this. I recently fell on a pavement in Paris, of all places. Stupid fall. Result, 8-inch metal plate, 41 stitches, 11 screws, and probably another year of physical therapy. And all this because I was comfortable in Paris instead of taking risk on the other side of the planet. So you see, and I tell myself it was my punishment for not being on an expedition elsewhere. Reinhold Messner, some of you might know him, famous Italian climber who did the first solo ascent of Everest without supplemental oxygen in 1978. He recently said in a casual interview at the Explorers Club in New York, when one goes and does, fear disappears. But when one waits and waits, it grows. So go for it. Yes, taking risks is easier said than done. But as you continue to get to know yourself and test yourself, you should and will take more and more risks. The biggest one would be not to take any at all. So please do take some risks. You will fail and it might take lots of time, but you will learn a lot and it will be rewarding. And you know, personally, I always told myself, really, if I fail or end up broke, I can always go to Australia and teach maths or French at a school somewhere, and it would not be a bad outcome anyway. So yes, explore, take risks, discover, but try to have some direction and also be ready to change and adapt. 30 years ago, a friend from Central started his robotic startup right after school and passed the hat to his friends to raise money. And I invested a modest $3,000 at the time. I doubled my money in 3 years and thought venture capital was really cool. That got me into the startup technology world. I got more and more curious about investing in technology, enough that I quit my consulting job. I knew I liked this the best, but it was also very difficult quitting a safe and well-paying job. It really took a few years to take shape, and I had to be patient and persistent. But whatever you do, don't ruminate forever about an A versus B decision. They might not be a bad choice anyway. It would have been totally okay for me to continue as a consultant or to work in Paris instead of coming to the US or go back to France after a few years in the US. In as much as I've done great things here in this country, I think, who knows, in a way I might have accomplished even more had I decided differently. So everybody tells you, follow your passion. I'm telling you that you can indeed be powered by multiple passions instead of agonizing over which one to follow. You will eventually find the right balance and how to do it all. It's not like having a dual identity or being a schizophrenic. It's more like a right brain, left brain combination, constructing a single, more powerful brain and self. Actually, the best example I have of following my passion in '79, right after school, I was admitted on a full scholarship to do a master in operations research at MIT and Stanford. I had both choices available to me, fully paid. But because of passion for a girlfriend in France, I started to work there. Romantic passion before career, you see? And I eventually came to the US 4 years later and eventually did quite well. So it was not a bad choice after all. And today, I'm an adventurer and a venture guy. The profession does not really exist, but I guarantee you that you can be exploring a crevasse in a glacier in Uganda one week and advising a tech startup in New York the next, and be off a month later to the jungles of West Papua to spend some time in a treehouse with natives who rarely see Westerners. And actually, you can also go to the North Pole with one of your startup investors, as I did. So overlap between these seemingly different worlds is always possible. For me, the adventure and venture epiphany happened during an expedition in Nepal almost 30 years ago. While trekking around the Annapurnas, I got this revelation. Something inside me said, you should do more of this and find ways to make it work with your business life, not just make it a once-a-year nice vacation. After quitting my consulting job, I knew I would combine these passions for startups and for adventure, becoming bipolar in a way. You do not know when this will happen, so keep doing what you like best, keep doing what you see yourself doing in the long term, and keep surrounding yourself with the best people, and it will happen. And as I said earlier, you will enjoy the parallels in your parallel lives. Since many years now, I've enjoyed both adventure and venture at the same time, and I do enjoy the parallels. At the beginning, I was shy at exploring bridges between these two worlds, but was encouraged to do so over time. I'm just back from the Antarctic Ocean, where I led a historical eco-adventure expedition. It was the ideal expedition to combine startup and adventure leadership. I was managing lots of skills, photo, filming, sailing, trekking, climbing ice, drone piloting over beaches filled with hundreds of thousands of stinking penguins and seals, and trying to avoid birds chasing my drone, pulling sleds during awful weather, dealing with various personalities, including British soldiers, a champion wingsuit jumper, and snowboard woman with a very difficult ego, a scientist, a boat crew, and not to mention the fundraising aspects that are key to adventure and startup success. Anybody else can do a job you don't like, but you are the only one who can do the job you love. You live in a generation where anyone from Peru, Bangladesh, Tanzania can compete with you in whatever field you will choose. So choose appropriately. Choose with passion, choose your passion, choose what matters to you. That's okay if you don't know how to code or don't speak Chinese. Don't worry, you'll still have a great life. For your major at university, maybe it means choose 2 majors. But in any event, don't choose a major based on how much money you think you can make once graduated. Think who you want to be in 10 or 20 years and plan on it now and become that person ASAP. Study your models now, if you have any, and even if you don't go to McGill or Georgetown, you will be fine. In fact, it's all about perseverance and resilience, traits that I probably have in my DNA as someone from Brittany, but that anybody can develop. In my case, one might have said, I've also always been a sort of delusional optimist. I don't see obstacles, just a vision of the goal at the end of the effort or on the other side of the mountain. I came here in '83 with 2 suitcases, but it took another 10 years to know really who I was and what I was capable of. An adventurer and an investor, that's what I'm good at. Yes, I had some luck early on, but I also lost a lot. I even was close to losing my life in 1 or 2 of my expeditions, but resilience got me back on track. The ability to surpass yourself, to be better than you were last time is probably the quality I'm the most proud of. Cultivate this, whatever you do, even if it's for a few months. Each day, get better at what you do. Often, to my surprise and embarrassment, I'm recognized as a world adventurer and explorer, and maybe by some as a world-class investor. But guess what? Try 30 years, over 100 investments, and 120 countries. That's what it takes. Each experience led me to the next one. I got involved with bad and sometimes dishonest entrepreneurs, lost some money and countless weeks of working for nothing, or so it seemed, but resilience paid. Every time I learned something new that I got to use for my next project. The same is true of my expeditions. You should have seen me in the Himalayas 20 years ago. It was a joke. So unprepared, not the right equipment, but you learn and you learn and you learn. The world is open to those of you who love to learn until the way you die. You are never, never, never ready. And yes, connections help, but don't get crazy. In my investment and adventure activities, I'm not getting some of the benefits of having a great network or having this intuition when I see a business plan or meet an entrepreneur to see if she or has what it takes. People say the connections and relationships you make in college will help you the rest of your life. Yes, in a way, but don't get crazy. Don't LinkedIn like maniacs. For 40 years, I've only stayed in touch with one person from my high school and 3 more from college, and I did okay. So my overall advice would be find balance now. And it does not just mean exercise at the company's gym. It's deeper than that. Never fall in the trap of I will have a life when I retire. In other words, be curious now. Be creative, be outside the norm, rebel if you must, and don't take what you are told for granted. But whatever happens, don't agonize over your choice. Most decisions are reversible or will turn out for the best. Don't sweat over it. I don't want you to say in 20 years, I wish I'd spent at least part of my life doing something I really like. Just do it now. That reminds me of when I was in Antarctica 12 years ago. There was a handwritten journal left by a lady scientist at the base camp. In it was this quote from a poem attributed to Mark Twain that some of you might know. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw out the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. And I always thought that this quote being there at that time was not a coincidence. Thank you all very much and good luck. I wish I were 18.